Hey everyone, welcome back to the Smash Property Podcast. Today's topic is talking about, is it ethical to be a property investor, particularly in 2025 with housing affordability being very hot in the headlines and a hot topic on a lot of people's minds. It's naturally got a lot of people asking, is it actually ethical to be a property investor and to grow a portfolio? This is the topic of today's discussion. Before we get into that though, we are joined back by Akira. Back again.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on this conversation. You did a great podcast, well, maybe about a week, 2 weeks ago, just in regards to outlining this conversation. So that's a good reference point to start it off.
Good follow-up, yeah.
Exactly. But after I heard that, I thought it would be valuable with this conversation happening quite a lot across the country.
Yeah.
So very pumped to be chatting about this.
Yeah, I'm pumped to have you back on camera. I feel like people don't want to see my face. They want to see yours.
No, you're the pretty face.
I like to be in the shadows, in the background. I'm holding it down for the team, doing all this content out there. We're also joined by our dog Rome, who you can't see on camera, but he may make an appearance here and there. And yeah, no, it's great to have you back. This topic is one that I think is, on the topic of a lot of people's minds, particularly some investors that we've worked with. And I think it's a timely discussion to have. I think, obviously, like you mentioned, just following up on that topic I had last week, talking about how we got here. This is just a natural kind of follow-on from that. And I think the topic is this is not about, protecting investors. It's also not about demonizing investors. This is just talking as people, as we kind of see it. We are obviously property investors. We are a buyer's agent, but I think just being unbiased with this, like I was in that other video, just to have that healthy discussion, I think is always important.
Definitely. Now you might hear some puppy noises and licking on here, and that's Mr. Rome. You might be able to see him on the main camera. No. I guess the essence of why I think this is valuable is because there's always going to be two sides of the coin with this. I've been doing a lot of research and wanting to understand, why do people actually not like property investors? And is there something that I'm not across or not understanding? And it's very interesting because there's people doing it hard out there, I think, at the moment. And it's just importantly understanding the balance and wanting to make sure as we progress into the future, we find a better way as communities to make sure things are moving fairly for everyone. Because I think importantly, we're in a day and age where, the rich are definitely going to get richer. And most importantly, if you have the ability to stay ahead and set up your future, not just for yourself, but your children, it's critical.
So let's talk about who property investors actually are. Now, we're sort of in a bit of a privileged position, obviously getting to see who, these real people are and what they're really like and what they really do for a living. And I think a lot of people might be surprised to hear that property investors are just everyday people. They're your neighbors, they're your friends, they're your family. They're, teachers, tradies, just everyday people trying to put themselves in a little bit of a better financial position.
Exactly.
And I think online, we do get some comments and we get some DMs from time to time where people are just property investors, you're part of the problem. You're these, this elite
very
group
negative,
of people.
Tone as well with it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of hang on, man. We're all the same here. We're just trying to better our spot. Do you know what I mean? Better our position in life. And so I think it's important to just know that they're just normal people. It's not some elite oligarch that's just running the show here.
Exactly. It's not inheritance kind of thing that's just trickling down. A lot of these people are saving for these deposits. They're working their asses off to try and put themselves in a position where, maybe they don't have to work at their jobs so hard going into the future. So there is absolutely, from my point of view, nothing wrong with that, especially in a country with so much opportunity. I mean, that's what is so beautiful about Australia, is that you can actually work hard and see the benefit of doing so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just thinking about my own journey, it's like, I was this high school dropout. I worked at the fucking council filling potholes. Like, I didn't start with a silver spoon in my mouth. Like, I had to grind to get here. And it's like, you get to these positions and then you just have people kind of just being like, oh, you had it handed to you and you're the problem. It's like, no, hang on, man. Like, I fucking worked, and a lot of people worked hard to fucking get to where they are. So I think it's important, like, just knowing a lot of people they are starting from scratch and trying to build a better life for themselves.
Definitely. And, it's just one of those things with negative comments. I always think of it as someone that's coming from hurt, especially like the trollers online with nothing better to do than to leave stupid comments.
I actually reckon there are a lot of bots. Like, I actually don't think they're real people. Because like you look at the profile, they're like two posts. They got like a really dingy kind of profile picture.
I find it interesting because it's probably the case, but also you have people who are hurting out there. Some people. Yeah. I was watching something. I think it was mainstream news, and
you watch the mainstream news,
but
you watch it to see what's coming.
Exactly.
What are they?
But it's interesting. You do definitely see people with their stories with a lot of hurt that they're facing, feeling at the end of the line, not being able to put themselves forward, even though they're working and slugging. And this is where I actually think, if you have a bit of time to set aside to invest into yourself, not just property, but invest into knowledge and understanding how it works. Property is one thing outside of, the past and history where you can actually pull yourself out of a situation and set your future up. So it is one of those things with the day and age that we live in. If you do something, research it and put your mind to it, I truly believe, just based on your circumstance, my circumstance, some of our clients, you can set yourself up for success.
Totally. I think, just to call it as it is, like, I think property investing is a lazy way to build wealth. I mean, all you got to fucking do is just buy property and, for the most part, everything else is going to do the work for you, as opposed to, for example, building your wealth by starting and building a business, which is infinitely more stressful than property investing. But like that's capitalism, and that's the system that we have. So like, I think it's important, we sort of touched on it, but like, why do people invest? And obviously, like we said, they want to build a better life. But let's go, like, why did you, like, what was your motivator? Like, why did you start to invest in property in the first place? Like, what was the driver?
For me, rolling back to the time frame and that point where I recognized, working 9 to 5 was not something I wanted to do my whole life. For me, my parents worked when we moved to Australia from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, 7 days a week. That was intense, especially as a growing kid. I recognized that was something I didn't want for my own life, especially because my parents were sacrificing that. So essentially it was recognizing that, one, my 9 to 5 work, once I was to become a mum, would not be enough. Also, super would not be enough for the lifestyle that I wanted. And in realizing that even with doing what I was doing, I needed to put something away for myself, just not also as a female, not having dependence on someone else. Those were all the little things that came together, and I recognized, okay, I need to do something, not just sit back and get older. I need to maybe sacrifice a little bit to be able to make sure that when I'm in my 40s, 50s, I have something that I'm okay and comfortable with. I don't have to stress. So that combination of things between, just looking at my parents firsthand, recognizing that, all right, I want to have a family of my own one day. I want to also make sure that I can spend time with my family, were all part of, my thought process when I first started. And just went for it.
Yeah, and that's super interesting. And I think like a lot of people, like if you just ask the question, why do people invest? It's to make money. It's actually a lot deeper than that. Because just reflecting on my own journey, it was never really actually about money. And still is to this day. It's not about money. It's about two things for me: security and freedom. That's the only reason why I ever got into property investing, and the only reason why I'm still a property investor today is because I want that security, that financial security, and I want the freedom to do as I please. Like that's like, it is so liberating. Like just being able to do whatever you want to do on a daily basis. It is so cool. And like, I just wish everybody could experience that, because you can then live to your fullest potential, and you might get involved and do things that you never thought were possible. You might grow in ways that you never thought were possible. That's the real, for me, the way that I see it. And for a lot of people, almost everyone we work with, that like there's a real reason, and it's generally comes back to those two key pillars of the security and the freedom. And it's so awesome, and I really wish that everyone can experience that, because like you and like many other people, I was in that 9-to-5 grind for such a long time, and I had some shit jobs for such a long time, and it just felt like I was never going to catch a break ever. And until I started making these good decisions of saving a bit more, okay, buying a property, okay, earning a bit more, working a bit harder, increasing my income, investing that extra income into another property. It's such a liberating feeling. I wish more people could feel it.
How often when you speak to clients do they say, "Oh, I want a big mansion or a Ferrari"? What is their usual response?
Zero. It's I would say it's maybe like 1%, if that, or 0.5% of people, and they're kind of just a bit of tongue in cheek when they say that.
Exactly.
But a lot of people is, hey, I just don't like the job I'm working in. Like, I just want to go and travel the world a little bit more. It's not about having millions of dollars in the bank. It's just about, hey, my basic needs are taken care of. And I can go and experience life.
There was one client last week that we had a late night call with, just to do our briefing and check in on the goals and where we're heading with everything. His download was so sweet and special. He is a dad of 2 daughters. Basically, all he wants, he's working his ass off. You can tell just by the way he's taking calls and operating. Yeah. But he's like, all I want to do is set my daughters up because I know it's going to be hard in the future. He's
a G. Yeah, if you're watching this, we're gonna sort you out real good. So yeah, no, totally get it. So there's I think the point is there's a strong emotional reason why people are doing this, and it's, I think, for the people that see it from the outside, like they're not property investors, they just see as you're money hungry pricks, you're fucking just trying to take away from everyone, and it's like, actually, that's not really the reason. It's just there's an emotional connection and an emotional reason that people have, which I think is an important thing to bring onto the table.
Yes.
Right?
But help me understand, why is it that people, might think that it's unethical? Is it because, number one, they believe that property investors are taking properties out of homeowner hands?
I would say that's kind of the general consensus. Like, and it's, yeah, I think people, there's a lot of people working multiple jobs out there with families that just can't seem to really get ahead. They can't seem to get their foot on the property ladder. They live in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, or wherever, and they just can't get into the market. And I think it's easy to just pin it on investor, be like, oh, well, I can't buy because property prices are so expensive because there's so many investors pushing up the prices. I think that's just, and I think that's it's sort of, there's a lot of, media narrative that goes out, and people are struggling, and then they see, the news articles and things like that, and then just sort of instantly make the connection and go, okay, well, it's an investor's fault.
Yes.
So I can totally understand why a lot of people would think that it is the fault of investors. But as I broke down in last week's video, it's a much bigger problem than it just being investors taking up all of the stock on the market. And if you haven't checked that video out and you want to know how we got into this position, I highly encourage you to do it. We'll link the video below, or you can just go back on the profile and see it. But even when I've been in the finance and real estate industry for almost 20 years now, right? Like, and even me putting that episode together, like there was a lot of stuff I was like, wow, okay, this really stems back like decades, policy changes, tax reforms, obviously the banking industry, interest rates, yes, investors have played a part. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think it's as bad as people actually think it is. And, like I've said in that other video, you take investors out of the equation, what happens to all the people that want to rent? Yeah. Not everybody wants to have a mortgage.
Exactly.
Right? There's not enough social housing for everyone to, just delete investors and then, all of a sudden...
I mean, migrants and people coming from overseas can't just buy off the cuff.
It's crazy.
Where would they go?
Where would they go? There's a lot of people like, oh, take investors out and then property prices will come down. Homeowners, people that actually own their homes are not going to want to have that. So it's a very complex,
it's nuanced.
A very complex topic. And I highly encourage you to check out that video because it is very important to understand how we got here. But let's sort of track towards can you actually be an ethical property investor with all of these things in mind? I think it is, realistic to sort of say that, yes, investors are a small part of the problem. There's no sort of denying that.
So I think to your point, just rounding it off, with understanding why people might be feeling that way, but most importantly, is there actually a way to be an investor that is ethical?
Look, I think so. I think the answer to that question is yes. Now, what does it mean? What does it mean to me to be an ethical investor? There's a couple things that go along with that. Mm-hmm. I think number one, it's providing a clean and safe home for a person to live in. Like if there's maintenance things on the building, fix it and fix it quickly, right? You own the property, do all of those things. So you're creating an environment for people that is just safe to live in. It's comfortable. It's got everything they need. And you're not sort of trying to cut corners and be greedy. Be greedy in that sense. I think obviously on the financial front, having your rents at a realistic market rate, I think is part of you being part of the solution. If there are, I know investors, not personally, but you hear things out there where they're just asking a ridiculous amount over market value for a property that's not really worth it. So I think just putting that into perspective and going, okay, well, yes, I got into this to make, build my wealth, obviously, right? That's not a dirty word. Like that's why we're doing it. You've obviously got a mortgage to pay back. You're taking on a lot of risk. So just have a market rent. I think that's fair. Like you said, it's all fair and reasonable, right?
Yeah.
A market rent for a fair market property, I think goes a long way to making you a part of a solution. And I think, not seeing your tenant as a human.
Yeah.
Because it's sometimes... Because if you're having a property manager, you don't deal with the tenant. All you really see is your rental statement comes in every month. You get the income from it. And if there's any maintenance stuff, you get, your property manager saying, hey, there's a dishwasher, blah, blah, blah. So
exactly, it
can become just all you see is numbers all the time. But just know behind those numbers sits an actual person and probably their family as well.
Exactly.
So when they need something, dishwasher breaks, roof leaks, carpet's gone, fix it. You know what I mean?
Correct. And I think having a wider scope on this, you've purchased an asset. That is a risk to you. Like you're taking on the liability of a mortgage. You have the benefit of having someone, a tenant, live there and look after it for you. Yeah. I think that is so valuable in the sense of you're growing your wealth in the background through equity. You're providing a home to someone who might not want to buy, who might be in a position where they just want to rent because maybe they're moving around, whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. But being, I think, abundantly aware that there are different circumstances, but looking after your tenant, not just from a financial standpoint, but like you said, a maintenance standpoint as well, because they're doing their side to help you with repaying your mortgage and also looking after the property.
Yeah.
So it's about balance and it is a relationship at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Just like you have yours with the bank, they have that relationship with the property manager. And I think if you treat people with respect, that will be reciprocated.
Yeah, it's a two-way street always. And, I'm a big believer of the energy you put out, it comes back. Whether it might be today or tomorrow, next year, it does happen. So I think ultimately there is ways to be an ethical investor. I think also a point that we didn't really touch on is investors in a lot of cases actually add stock back onto the market, whether it's renovating a home that was completely uninhabitable prior, whether it's building a new dwelling so people and families can move into them. I think that's being a part of the solution, and a lot of the properties that we buy, a lot of the investors we work with, are doing exactly that. Yes, they might buy an existing property, but with that, they're actually building a second dwelling, often on that same property, and very high quality, fit and finish. Not just a cheap little, bloody, what do you call it?
Yeah, off the truck kind of setup.
Yeah, like a fucking container or something. Like these are actual 2-bedroom dwelling, units you can live in. I think that's part of, okay, if you're thinking about, this from a social perspective, I think that's a way where you can actually be a part of the solution as well. Plus also benefit financially. Like that's why we're doing it, right?
Because look at it from the bare bones of this. The government does not have the ability to house every single person and create all these houses. That's why there are so many incentives for investors.
Correct.
For it.
Yep.
Is that they do need the help, I think, to ensure that people all over the country can have a roof over their heads. So it's recognizing as well that there are different parts of the equation, and importantly, as an investor, if you can include and empower people to have a roof over their head, like you were saying to your point, make sure rent is fair and reasonable, make sure it's a nice, safe condition of the property, you are doing your bit to a degree. So it's just the balance, and also seeing the flip side.
Yeah, it's an amazing point, because you're don't forget, you're providing housing exactly as you just said, for in a situation where if you and many and the other 2.2 million investors didn't do, there wouldn't be housing for those people that want to rent. So look, it's a very deep and complex topic. Like I mentioned, we're sort of just talking about, I guess, the social and the ethics and the emotional side of it. Like I said, the reasons why, go and check out that other video. It's definitely well worth it.
I also just wanted to point out, because as you were saying that, a thought came to mind that there are people very hard done by, and I don't mean to make this sound like a victim blame or anything like that, but there's some people who believe that because they live in Sydney, they need to buy their first house in Sydney and live in it. Now, from my perspective, a $1 million property in Sydney, the mortgage repayments on that is ridiculous as your first property.
Yeah.
And this is where, from my perspective, using property as a tool, you don't have to buy your first house in Sydney. You can go interstate and do something that you can afford, as opposed to just limit your mindset and just be like, oh, I need to purchase next door, basically.
Yeah.
So it gives you the opportunity to make sure that you're not priced out, to grow your wealth, to slowly build, if that is something that's critical that you want to live in a capital city. So it's understanding that it is a tool to a degree. You're providing a resource and value, but you can also have a bigger frame where you actually ensure that if you do want a certain lifestyle, that you do have that down the line.
Totally. And it's a great point, because, we post, properties that we bought for $500K or less, or in around that price point. And like 90% of people are like, yeah, it's fucking bullshit. There's no way you can do that. And it's just like, yeah, you can, dude. Like, just look outside of a capital city and you will fucking find it.
I'm going to shout out one of my favorite clients. He's 19 years old. He's purchasing his first property at $490.
Fucking legend.
Right?
Yeah, that kid's gonna go. He's gonna be
and
a wealthy
those
boy.
are the things that make me so proud to see, like, the next generation. I feel old just saying that, Jesus Christ. But seeing people in Gen Z putting like their foot down and saying, no, I want to make a go of this. I'm not gonna be priced out and accept a horrible future. I want to do something about it.
Totally. Oh, I fucking love seeing that. It's motivating for me. And yeah, just on the topic of being old, like, just slightly off topic, I was thinking before, I was like, between like 15 and 25, that 10-year period, it felt like a long time.
15 to 25, yeah,
felt
dude,
like
actually.
A very long time. 25 to 35, boom. It's just like, it's like half a blink of an eye and it's gone.
Yeah.
The reason I'm bringing that up is, and just following on from your point there, like, if you are, in your late 20s, and you're enjoying yourself, fucking by all means, have the time of your life. But just know it is going to fly by like the blink of an eye, right? Yeah. And this kid we're talking about at 19, and we said to him when we sat down with him, by the time he's fucking 30, even by the time he's 40, if he keeps on that trajectory, he is going to have a huge amount of wealth behind him, because it is all about time in the market. We hear it time and time again. It's just about getting into the market, and that's it. The time will do most of the heavy lifting. And yes, you can get cute about areas and data and all this kind of stuff. And yes, it makes a difference where you buy. You don't want to buy in Broken Hill, right? But the point being is that if you can afford to get into a market, fucking do it. Like Akira just mentioned, is not just about, I live in Sydney, let me buy in Sydney. That's such a closed mindset. There are so many affordable areas in the country where lots and lots of people are using it to their advantage. And like we said, creating that future for themselves where they just have that security, they have that freedom. So I think, and the reason I'm making a big point of this is there's a lot of people I know that are just like, oh, I'm going to wait till see what happens with Trump. Oh, I'm going to wait to see what happens till after the election. Oh, I'm going to wait to see what happens with the interest rates. And that's all cool. But all you're missing out on is, all you're doing really is just making things harder for yourself and more expensive for yourself. Because as I've said in my property market updates, every single month, properties go up at a median level value by a couple $1,000s at a minimum. So that's money that you're losing out on and missing out on. So I think shout out to the client 19, I won't mention his name, but doing his thing. So proud of people like that. And I hope this is a motivator for people sitting on the sidelines to be, you know what, like, let's just fucking do it. Like it's so achievable. Like I just want to shake the camera. Like it's so doable for people.
Exactly. And I think just rounding up, you know, my belief with the ethics side of this conversation, my belief as an individual, and might be different for other people, I get that, but it is important as a life on this earth that you have accountability for yourself. You can't just be expecting government handouts and things like, we live in such a beautiful country. You want to make sure that if you have these opportunities available to you, that you freaking make a go of it. You don't just sit back and expect things to happen. Yeah. So it's in my perspective as part of a community that if you're not so reliant on, you know, super later down the track or pension down the track, that you are actually doing something that's favorable to the whole society, more importantly. So it's a bigger scope. It's important that you take accountability and recognize that it does take time. This kid is sacrificing to be able to put himself in a position where he can purchase so young. Yeah. So it comes with hard work, it comes with sacrifice, but it pays off later down the track.
I can't even remember being 19, to be honest with you. It was just like a blur.
I do.
Had lots of court appearances and lots of clubbing, late night taxis coming home. Yeah,
I spent way too much money out there when going out, and I don't know.
Yeah, I just remember like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like, I don't know, I would have blown like so much money. So much money. It was like Teapot Wednesdays in King's Cross. Then I think it was like, there was like a Thursday local pub somewhere. I think Fridays we used to hit up Manly or something like that. Saturdays was Chinese laundry in the dungeon. Like going nuts. And then Sundays was like, I gotta go to work on Monday.
Oh God.
And then Monday was, you were fine because you were 19 and you just rocked up to work fine, like nothing happened.
Yeah, my days were Wednesdays because it was Newcastle. For some reason that was the day to go out, Newcastle.
Hell yeah.
And then working at David Jones in Katara up in Newcastle, and then getting my makeup done on the counter, and then going with all the girls from David Jones.
Yeah. And now we're 35. Well, I'm 35 with a dog and a bunch of debt.
Yeah, I know. On Saturday night, you're like, you want to do anything, go anywhere? I'm like,
yeah. Hell no. I leave my house, it fucking costs $1,000. No, I'm joking. I don't. It's just, the point being, it's expensive. No, I get enjoyment from working on myself, working on things that better my immediate surrounds and people around me. I think that was a sick episode. Hopefully, hopefully the viewers, if you're still watching, thanks. You got some value out of that. If there's topics that you want us to cover in future episodes, whatever it might be, leave them in the comments or send us a DM. Happy to always put some things together for the audience. Thanks to everyone who has liked, subscribed, joined all of our channels across YouTube and Instagram and all those social platforms. We really do appreciate every single person that has subscribed to our content. As always, there's lots of stuff coming in the pipeline that we have lined up. Shout out to all the clients as well. You guys are friggin' amazing. And yeah, super stoked with a lot of the deals that we have. I think I'm going to be doing some walkthroughs of some of the deals that we have had done recently, just some of the numbers to just back up the point we're just talking about, like how affordable it really is. So stay tuned for some of that. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll catch you soon.
Thank you.